13. Black actors who hid they were gay until the day they died. They were legends whose talent lit up the world, but behind the spotlight, they carried a truth they could never fully share. From chart-topping singers to Oscar-nominated actors, these 13 black icons broke barriers in music, film, literature, and dance, all while living in an era where being openly gay could end their careers or worse. Their triumphs were public, but their struggles were deeply personal, hidden in the shadows until after their final breath. Today, we uncover their untold stories. Are you ready to see the side of history the world tried to erase? Stay tuned. This will change how you remember them forever. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr., born December 8, 1925 in Harlem, New York, rose from a vaudeville child star to one of the most recognizable and versatile entertainers of the 20th century. Known as the Prince of Entertainers, he could sing, dance, act, play multiple instruments, and deliver impeccable comedic timing. By the 1960s, he was a household name, performing alongside legends like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin as part of the Rat Pack. Davis shattered racial barriers in Hollywood and Las Vegas, becoming one of the first black performers to headline in venues that once barred black guests entirely. Yet despite his vibrant stage persona and seemingly open life, Davis carried a private truth that remained unspoken until long after his death. Rumors and biographical claims that he had same-sex relationships. Publicly, Davis was married 3 times to women, most famously to Swedish actress May Britt, a union that drew national attention and outrage because interracial marriage was still taboo in America in 1960. He also had a brief but highly publicized relationship with actress Kim Novak, which ended abruptly under pressure from both the film industry and organized crime figures who feared public backlash. While these romances dominated headlines, several close friends and biographers have alleged that Davis's personal life was more complex, including discreet relationships with men. The cultural climate of the mid-20th century was brutally unforgiving toward homosexuality, especially for black men in the public eye. Being openly gay could destroy careers, sever endorsements, and invite relentless media harassment. For Davis, who was already facing racism and anti-Semitism, having converted to Judaism after a near-fatal 1954 car accident, living openly as a gay or bisexual man was virtually impossible without sacrificing everything he had worked for. Instead, he presented an image that conformed to societal norms while perhaps living more authentically in private circles. His commitment to civil rights was unwavering, marching with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., speaking out against segregation, and using his fame to push for equality. Yet the tension between his public advocacy for racial justice and his silence on LGBTQ+ identity reflects the immense pressure he faced to choose which battles could be fought in public. Davis died of throat cancer on May 16, 1990, at age 64, leaving behind a rich legacy of artistry, activism, and resilience. Do you think the world would have embraced Sammy Davis Jr. the same way if he had publicly revealed his full truth during his lifetime? Today, with greater openness about sexuality, his story serves as both a celebration of triumphs and a reminder of the sacrifices required to survive in an era of deep prejudice. The complexity of his life ensures that Sammy Davis Jr. remains a fascinating, multi-layered figure in American cultural history. Little Richard, born. Richard Wayne Penniman on December 5, 1932 in Macon, Georgia, was one of the most electrifying and influential figures in music history. With his explosive piano playing piercing vocals and flamboyant stage presence, he helped lay the foundation for rock and roll in the 1950s. Hits like Tutti Frutti Long, Tall Sally, and Good Golly Miss Molly didn't just top charts, they redefined what popular music could be, fusing gospel intensity with rhythm and blues energy. His outrageous costumes, heavy makeup, and unrestrained showmanship broke gender norms long before mainstream culture was ready to talk about such things. From an early age, Little Richard's sexuality was a point of tension in his life. He was expelled from his childhood home by his father, a stern church deacon, for being different. This rejection marked the beginning of a lifelong struggle to reconcile his identity with the conservative religious values he was raised under. At various points in his career, he publicly identified as gay, bisexual, or omnisexual, only to later denounce these statements after returning to evangelical Christianity. In a 1982 interview, he acknowledged he had been gay all his life, yet in later years he described homosexuality as sinful. This back and forth continued until his final years, reflecting a deep internal conflict between faith and self-acceptance. Despite personal turmoil, Little Richard's influence extended beyond music. He became an early, albeit reluctant, queer icon, embodying freedom of expression at a time when LGBTQ+ representation was virtually non-existent in the public eye. His style influenced generations from the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix to Prince and David Bowie. Yet his openness was carefully calibrated. While fans saw a man unafraid of glitter and eyeliner, the full truth of his romantic life remained largely private. His relationship with religion only deepened this tension. Periodically leaving show business to preach, he would renounce his earlier lifestyle only to return to the stage again, dazzling audiences with the same unapologetic flamboyance. This push and pull defined not only his career, but also his personal narrative, revealing the heavy toll of living authentically in a judgmental era. Do you think Little Richard's career would have been even bigger or cut short if he had embraced his sexuality without apology? From the start, Little Richard passed away on May 9, 2020, at the age of 87 from bone cancer. His life story remains a vivid testament to the complicated dance between authenticity, societal expectations, and survival in show business, leaving a legacy that still shapes music and LGBTQ+ history today. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway, born October 1, 1945 in Chicago and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, was one of the most gifted and soulful voices of his generation. Known for his deeply emotive delivery and impeccable musicianship, Hathaway created timeless classics such as A Song for You This Christmas and his unforgettable duets with Roberta Flack, including Where Is the Love and the Closer I Get to You. His music carried a richness and vulnerability that resonated across genres, blending gospel, jazz, and R&B into something uniquely his own. Behind the success, Hathaway battled personal struggles that were rarely visible to the public. He married Eulalia Hathaway, and together they had 2 daughters, including Grammy-winning singer Lala Hathaway. Outwardly, he embodied the image of a devoted family man. Yet over the years, some close acquaintances and biographical accounts have suggested that Hathaway may have been gay or bisexual, something he never addressed publicly. In the 1970s, the entertainment industry was notoriously hostile toward LGBTQ+ artists, particularly black male performers in soul and R&B. The risks of career damage, public scandal, and personal backlash were immense, making secrecy almost a necessity for survival. Adding to the burden was Hathaway's severe mental health battle. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a condition that led to delusions, extreme mood swings, and repeated hospitalizations. The combination of hiding a possible part of his identity and coping with a debilitating illness created immense emotional strain. Friends noted that he often seemed weighed down by unspoken pain, even in moments of professional triumph. A 2010 stage production, The Donny Hathaway Story, explored not only his musical genius, but also hinted at the layers of complexity in his personal life, including the possibility that he lived as a closeted queer man. While the play didn't dwell on this aspect, it reinforced that Hathaway was far more intricate than the public ever knew. Do you believe the world would have been more compassionate toward Donny Hathaway if his truth had been known during his lifetime? Tragically, on January 13, 1979, at just 33 years old, Hathaway died after falling from the 15th floor of a New York hotel in what was ruled a suicide. His untimely death robbed music of a singular talent, but his voice and songs continue to inspire. Today, his story stands as a poignant reminder of the silent battles that can lie behind even the most beautiful art. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross, born April 20th, 1951 in New York City, was one of the most celebrated R&B and soul vocalists of all time. Over a career spanning more than 3 decades, he sold more than 35 million records, won 8 Grammy Awards, and delivered timeless hits like Never Too Much Here and Now, Dance with My Father, and A House Is Not a Home. Known for his velvety tenor voice, impeccable phrasing, and romantic ballads, Vandross became the soundtrack to countless love stories across the world. His concerts sold out internationally, and his albums consistently topped charts, cementing him as a music icon. Yet behind the smooth stage presence and elegant image, Vandross kept his personal life fiercely private. Throughout his career, rumors about his sexuality persisted, but he never confirmed or denied them. Close friends, including singer Patti LaBelle, later revealed that Vandross was gay but that he feared coming out publicly. The concern wasn't unfounded in an era when the music industry catered heavily to female fan bases, especially in the R&B genre. Being openly gay could have alienated a large portion of his audience, potentially costing him record sales, endorsements, and career opportunities. Beyond professional concerns, Vandross was deeply devoted to his mother, Mary Ida Vandross, and reportedly worried about subjecting her to public scrutiny or prejudice if his sexuality became tabloid fodder. He wanted her to remain proud and shielded from the cruel judgment that LGBTQ+ people often faced. Do you think Luther's music would have been received differently if fans had known the truth during his lifetime? In 2003, Vandross suffered a severe stroke that left him unable to perform. Though he made a brief public appearance via a pre-recorded video at the 2004 Grammy Awards, where he won Song of the Year for Dance with My Father, his health never fully recovered. On July 1, 2005, he passed away at the age of 54. After his death, the 2025 documentary Luther Never Too Much explored his life artistry and private battles, addressing his sexuality with sensitivity and respect. Today, Luther Vandross's legacy remains untarnished. His songs continue to play at weddings, anniversaries, and romantic moments, proving that love in music transcends labels. His story is both a testament to unmatched artistry and a reminder of the personal costs paid to protect one's truth in an unforgiving industry. Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart, born September 7, 1957 in Columbus, Ohio, was a singer whose infectious energy, distinctive style, and unmistakable voice made him one of the vibrant figures in 1980s pop and R&B. He first entered the entertainment world as a dancer on the TV show Soul Train, which led to work as a backing vocalist for artists like Shalimar and Culture Club. In 1984, his breakout moment came with the hit The Word Is Out, but it was his 1986 anthem We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off that catapulted him into international fame. The song, with its playful but responsible message about love and intimacy, became a defining track of the decade, reaching the top 5 in the UK and top 10 in the US. Stewart's public image stood out. He wore colorful, tailored outfits, sported unique hairstyles, and carried himself with unapologetic flamboyance. In an industry that often pressured male artists to present a hyper-masculine persona, Stewart defied expectations. While he never made formal public statements about his sexuality, he also didn't hide who he was from those in the music community. Friends and colleagues in the 1980s music scene knew he was gay, but mainstream media largely ignored the subject during his peak years. Being a black gay man in pop at the height of the AIDS crisis presented unique challenges. Even as he appeared on global stages, some industry figures were hesitant to fully back him, fearing that his image didn't fit the commercial mold. Stewart, however, leaned into his individuality, letting his music videos, fashion, and lyrics carry his personality to audiences worldwide. Do you think Jermaine Stewart's career would have lasted longer if the music industry of the 1980s had been more accepting of openly gay artists? By the 1990s, Stewart's chart success declined, though he remained active in recording and performing. Tragically, his life was cut short when he died on March 17, 1997, at just 39 years old, from liver cancer related to AIDS. His passing was not widely covered in the press, reflecting the stigma and silence that surrounded both the disease and LGBTQ+ identities at the time. Today, Jermaine Stewart is remembered as more than a one-hit wonder. He was a fearless stylist, a joyful performer, and a quiet trailblazer who lived authentically in an era when doing so came with real risks. His legacy, especially through his biggest hit, continues to inspire conversations about self-expression, love, and acceptance. Ethel Waters. Ethel Waters, born October 31, 1896, in Chester, Pennsylvania, rose from extreme poverty to become one of the most influential Black entertainers of the 20th century. She began her career singing blues in the 1910s and 1920s before transitioning to jazz, gospel, and acting. With a voice that could move effortlessly between sultry and powerful, she recorded hits like Stormy Weather, Am I Blue and Dinah. On stage and screen, she broke barriers, becoming the second African-American to be nominated for an Academy Award for Pinky in 1949, and the first Black woman to star in her own television show, The Ethel Waters Show, in 1939. While she was celebrated for her talent, Waters was also fiercely private about her personal life. Historical accounts and biographies suggest she may have had romantic relationships with both men and women. In the 1920s, she shared a close partnership with dancer Ethel Williams, and the two were so inseparable that friends nicknamed them the Two Ethels. They lived together for a time, a bold arrangement in an era when same-sex relationships could lead to scandal, job loss, or even violence. Waters also married men on 3 separate occasions, though none of these marriages lasted, adding to speculation that her true affections may have been more complex than publicly acknowledged. Being a Black woman in entertainment during the first half of the 20th century was already a steep uphill climb. Adding an openly queer identity to that reality would have been career suicide, especially in the fiercely segregated and morally conservative America of her era. As a result, Waters maintained a guarded approach to her private affairs. Do you think Ethel Waters would be celebrated differently today if she had lived openly as part of the LGBTQ+ community? In the 1950s, Waters underwent a significant religious transformation, joining evangelist Billy Graham's ministry and performing gospel music at his crusades. During this period, she never spoke of her earlier relationships with women, suggesting either a deliberate distancing from her past or a strategic silence to fit her new public image. Ethel Waters passed away on September 1, 1977, at the age of 80. Her career left an indelible mark on music theater and film. Though her sexuality remains a matter of historical interpretation rather than public confirmation, her life reflects the quiet resilience of someone navigating fame, race, gender, and possible queerness in a time when simply existing outside the norm could cost everything. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey, born January 5, 1931 in Rogers, Texas, became one of the most celebrated choreographers and dancers in American history. Raised in the segregated South by a single mother, he was introduced to dance as a teenager in Los Angeles, where he studied under renowned choreographer Lester Horton. In 1958, Ailey founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in New York City, a company that would become a global ambassador for modern dance and Black cultural expression. His works, like the iconic Revelations, fused modern dance, ballet, jazz, and African-American spirituals, celebrating Black history and resilience on the world stage. While Ailey's artistic brilliance was undeniable, he was intensely private about his personal life. Friends, colleagues, and later biographers confirmed that he was gay, though he never publicly addressed his sexuality. In the mid-20th century, being openly gay, especially as a Black man in the arts, risked both career and personal safety. Ailey expressed parts of himself through his choreography, instead often incorporating themes of love between men, spiritual conflict, and liberation into his performances without explicitly naming them as queer narratives. Behind the curtain, Ailey struggled with bipolar disorder, a condition that caused mood swings, deep depression, and periods of intense creative drive. The pressure of leading a major dance company, facing systemic racism, concealing his sexuality, and managing mental health challenges took a toll on him over the years. Still, his work spoke for him. His pieces often carried an emotional depth that reflected unspoken aspects of his identity. Do you think Alvin Ailey's art would have been interpreted differently if audiences had known more about his private life? In the 1980s, during the height of the AIDS crisis, Ailey contracted HIV. Even in his final days, the stigma surrounding both the disease and homosexuality weighed so heavily on him that he requested his official cause of death be listed as a blood disease rather than AIDS-related complications. He died on December 1st, 1989, at just 58 years old. Today, Alvin Ailey's legacy extends far beyond dance. His company continues to tour internationally, inspiring new generations of performers and audiences. His life stands as a powerful example of how artistry can be both a refuge and a voice when society tries to silence personal truths, ensuring his impact will resonate for decades to come. Paul Winfield. Paul Winfield, born May 22, 1939 in Los Angeles, California, emerged as one of the most respected and versatile actors of his generation. He first gained national recognition for his starring role in Sounder 1972, which earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, making him only the third African-American man to achieve that honor at the time. Winfield's deep voice, commanding presence, and emotional range allowed him to transition seamlessly between film, television, and stage, with standout performances in A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich, 1978, The Terminator 1984, and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan 1982. He also won an Emmy in 1995 for his portrayal of Martin Luther King Jr. in King. Behind the accolades, Winfield lived a personal life he chose to keep away from public scrutiny. Though never openly declaring his sexuality during his career, close friends and colleagues later confirmed he was gay. For nearly 30 years, he shared a loving, committed relationship with architect Charles Gillen Jr. The two lived quietly together, avoiding the kind of public attention that could have jeopardized Winfield's career in an era when being an openly gay black man in Hollywood was considered professional suicide. His discretion wasn't solely about career preservation. It was also about protecting the intimacy of his personal life. In the early 1970s, during the filming of Sounder, Winfield confided in co-star Cicely Tyson about his sexuality. She offered him a safe home environment, shielding him from industry gossip and the prejudice that could have derailed his momentum. Do you think Paul Winfield would have been given more leading roles if Hollywood had been free of homophobia during his era? In 2002, tragedy struck when Charles Gillen Jr. died, leaving Winfield devastated. Just 2 years later, on March 7, 2004, Paul Winfield passed away from a heart attack at age 64. The couple is buried side by side at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Los Angeles, a lasting testament to their decades-long bond. Today, Winfield is remembered not only for his exceptional body of work, but also for his quiet dignity in navigating both racism and homophobia in an unforgiving industry. His story stands as an enduring example of how some of Hollywood's brightest talents lived in the shadows, not out of shame, but out of necessity, while still delivering performances that continue to inspire audiences around the world. Richard Bruce Nugent. Richard Bruce Nugent, born July 2, 1906 in Washington, D.C., was a groundbreaking figure of the Harlem Renaissance, an era when black art, literature, and music flourished in the 1920s and 1930s. Unlike many of his peers, Nugent lived his life with a rare openness about his sexuality. He was a writer, painter, and actor whose boldness challenged both racial and sexual norms in an era defined by strict conformity. His presence in Harlem's creative circles was magnetic, and he moved among greats like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Countee Cullen. In 1926, Nugent published Smoke Lilies and Jade in the avant-garde magazine Fire, a short story that became one of the first openly queer works by a black author in American literature. Written in a stream of consciousness style, it told of a romantic relationship between two men, an act of literary courage that shocked many readers at the time. Nugent later explained that the piece was meant to capture another kind of lonesomeness, not about race, but about being stigmatized for who one loves. His art reflected his unapologetic identity, vivid portraits, sensual sketches, and writings that intertwined beauty, desire, and social defiance. While many Harlem Renaissance artists concealed their sexuality to protect their careers, Nugent refused to hide. This bravery, however, came with costs. Publishers and galleries sometimes shunned his work, and his career never reached the same commercial success as others who chose to stay silent about their private lives. Do you think Richard Bruce Nugent's work would have been celebrated more widely if he had lived in today's cultural climate? Even with these setbacks, Nugent continued creating for decades. His later years saw him working as a painter and mentor to younger artists, keeping alive the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance well into the late 20th century. He also collaborated on projects that celebrated Black queer history, ensuring that stories like his would not be erased. Richard Bruce Nugent passed away on May 27, 1987, at the age of 80. In the years since his death, scholars and activists have reclaimed his work as a vital part of both African American and LGBTQ+ history. Today, he is celebrated not only for his artistic contributions, but also for his fearless authenticity, which paved the way for generations of Black queer creatives to live and work more openly. Bayard Rustin. Bayard Rustin, born March 17, 1912 in West Chester, Pennsylvania, was one of the most influential yet often overlooked figures in the American civil rights movement. A master strategist and organizer, Rustin was the architect behind the 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his historic "I Have a Dream" speech. His skills in logistics, nonviolent protest strategy, and coalition building were unmatched, earning him the respect of civil rights leaders, even when his personal life became a point of controversy. Rustin lived as an openly gay man in his private life during a time when homosexuality was not only socially taboo, but also criminalized in many states. His sexuality was used against him by political opponents and at times even by fellow activists who feared it could discredit the movement. In 1953, he was arrested in California on a morals charge for being intimate with another man, a charge that carried heavy stigma and was weaponized to push him out of leadership roles. Despite these setbacks, Rustin refused to abandon the fight for justice. He had an expansive vision of equality, advocating not only for racial justice, but also for workers' rights, anti-war movements, and later in life, LGBTQ+ equality. His activism was rooted in a deep belief in non-violence, influenced by his Quaker upbringing and his work with leaders like Mahatma Gandhi's followers in India. In the 1980s, Rustin began speaking more openly about gay rights, drawing parallels between the struggle for racial equality and the fight for LGBTQ+ acceptance. He shared his life with Walter Nagel, and in 1982, when same-sex marriage was not yet legal, Rustin adopted Nagel as his legal son to ensure inheritance and medical decision rights, an unconventional yet deeply committed act of love and protection. Do you think Bayard Rustin would have been as widely celebrated as Dr. King if his sexuality hadn't been used to sideline him? Rustin died on August 24, 1987, at the age of 75. In 2013, President Barack Obama posthumously awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, finally giving national recognition to his contributions. Today, Rustin's life stands as a testament to the truth that fighting for justice must include everyone, and his legacy continues to inspire activists across movements and generations. James Baldwin. James Baldwin, born August 2, 1924 in Harlem, New York, was one of the most profound literary voices of the 20th century. A novelist, essayist, playwright, and social critic, Baldwin used his pen to dissect the intersections of race, sexuality, class, and identity in America. His works, such as Go Tell It on the Mountain, 1953, Giovanni's Room, 1956, and Another Country, 1962, combined lyrical prose with searing social commentary, challenging readers to confront uncomfortable truths about prejudice and human connection. Baldwin was open about being attracted to men, though he resisted the limitations of labels like gay or homosexual, insisting that love and desire were too complex to be confined by definitions. His groundbreaking novel Giovanni's Room, written while he was living in Paris, centered on a romantic relationship between two men, a bold move for a Black American writer in the 1950s, when both his race and the book's subject matter risked alienating publishers and readers. He refused to compromise, declaring that omitting the truth of such relationships would be dishonest. Although Baldwin spoke candidly about love between men in his fiction, he was discreet about his personal relationships. Biographers have documented romances with men in the US, France, and Turkey, but Baldwin preferred to let his work speak for him. His identity as a Black gay man, he often said, gave him a unique vantage point from which to observe society, allowing him to see injustice more clearly and to connect with anyone who had ever felt marginalized. Do you think Baldwin's works would have been embraced sooner by mainstream America if he hadn't been so open about same-sex love? Baldwin spent much of his life abroad, finding in Europe a degree of personal freedom denied to him in the United States. Yet he never stopped engaging with American social struggles, returning frequently to participate in the civil rights movement and to critique the country's ongoing failures in race relations. He died on December 1, 1987, in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, France, leaving behind a literary legacy that continues to inspire new generations. Today, Baldwin is celebrated not only as a master of language, but also as a trailblazer whose courage to write honestly about race and sexuality paved the way for more inclusive storytelling in literature and beyond. Willie Ninja. Willie Ninja, born William Roscoe Leake on April 12, 1961 in Queens, New York, was a revolutionary figure in dance and LGBTQ+ culture, famously known as the godfather of voguing. Emerging from the underground ballroom scene of New York City in the 1980s, he captivated audiences with his razor-sharp movements, geometric poses, and unparalleled precision. Voguing, named after Vogue magazine, was more than a dance style. It was an art form rooted in self-expression, resilience, and queer Black and Latino pride. Willie perfected and popularized it, bringing it from Harlem ballrooms to international runways and mainstream pop culture. His global breakthrough came with the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, which spotlighted the ballroom world and introduced voguing to audiences who had never seen anything like it. Willie stood out not only for his dance mastery, but for his charisma, discipline, and vision. He wasn't just a performer. He was a teacher and mentor, founding the House of Ninja, where he trained younger dancers and instilled in them a sense of pride and professionalism. His influence extended into high fashion, working with designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier and Thierry Mugler, and coaching supermodels such as Naomi Campbell on poise and runway technique. While openly gay in the ballroom community, Willie navigated a mainstream society still deeply prejudiced against LGBTQ+ people, especially queer men of color. Even so, he carried himself with confidence, using his platform to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS at a time when stigma was rampant and resources for education were scarce. Through his performances and public speaking, he encouraged safe practices, testing, and mutual care within the community. Do you think voguing would have gained the same global recognition without Willie Ninja's influence? Tragically, Willie's life was cut short when he died on September 2, 2006, at the age of 45 from heart failure related to AIDS. His passing was a significant loss to both the dance and LGBTQ+ worlds. Today, his legacy endures in the continued vitality of ballroom culture, the global popularity of voguing, and the countless dancers and artists he inspired. From underground clubs to televised competitions, traces of Willie Ninja's artistry can be seen everywhere, proving that his impact was not just momentary, it was transformative. Howard Rollins. Howard Ellsworth Rollins, Jr. Born February 17, 1950 in Baltimore, Maryland, was a gifted actor whose career spanned stage, television, and film. He first gained critical acclaim for his role as Coalhouse Walker Jr. in the 1981 film Ragtime, a performance that earned him both an Academy Award and a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor. This success opened the door to major roles, including his memorable turn as Virgil Tibbs in the TV adaptation of In the Heat of the Night, 1988 to 1994, where his nuanced performances drew praise from critics and audiences alike. Behind the camera, Rollins was a deeply private man. While he never spoke publicly about his sexuality, friends and members of the acting community have stated that he was gay. In the Hollywood of the 1980s and early 1990s, particularly for black male actors coming out, risked not only professional opportunities, but also personal safety. To maintain his career, Rollins kept this part of his identity within trusted circles, finding community among other black gay actors, such as Paul Winfield and Raymond St. Jacques. However, Rollins's life was not without personal struggles. He battled substance abuse issues which became public in the early 1990s and eventually led to his removal from In the Heat of the Night. Despite these challenges, he remained respected for his craft and was admired for his ability to bring depth and humanity to every role he took on. Do you think Howard Rollins's career would have taken a different path if he had been able to live openly in Hollywood? In 1996, Rollins was diagnosed with AIDS-related lymphoma, a reality he kept from the public due to the intense stigma surrounding the disease at the time. On December 8, 1996, just 6 weeks after his diagnosis, he passed away at the age of 46. His funeral in Baltimore drew friends, colleagues, and fans who remembered him not just for his talent, but for the warmth and generosity he extended off-screen. Today, Howard Rollins is remembered as a trailblazing black actor who broke barriers in film and television, even as he navigated the painful realities of homophobia and the AIDS crisis. His legacy lives on in the roles that continue to inspire actors of color and in the quiet courage with which he lived his truth. These 13 black entertainers were more than just icons. They were trailblazers who shaped music, film, literature, dance, and civil rights, all while hiding a part of themselves from a world that wasn't ready to accept them. Their stories reveal not only the weight of fame, but the cost of secrecy in an unforgiving era. At Legends of Black Excellence, we honor their courage, talent, and the barriers they broke even in silence. But here's the question: if they had been able to live openly, would history remember them the same way, or would their legacies have been even greater?